Okay, the intent of this presentation is to give you a brief summary of cooperative learning and collaborative learning. And here we have a picture of Robert Slavin, who's probably one of the principal proponents of cooperative learning in the U.S. And so let's start. Okay. Here's a Venn diagram of collaborative versus cooperative learning, where cooperative learning is sort of subsumed into the greater model of collaborative learning, would be a way of thinking about this. Another way that the text talks about it is collaborative learning has emerged from a British experience on using groups, and cooperative learning has emerged from an American experience on using groups. So the lines between these two really dissolve pretty quickly, and so you can pretty much treat them interchangeably. I'll talk about cooperative learning as we move forward. Okay. You need to create a safe but challenging environment in order to use cooperative learning. The key is the safe, and probably underline safe, because that you need to allow learners to feel like they're safe within their groups to explore ideas and not be shut down. I found that groups of 2 or 3, particularly I do a lot of stuff with computers, and when you work in groups on the computer, it doesn't work so well even with 3. It in fact works with 2 better. In some of my online classes, I try to limit it to 3 because otherwise there's people will not participate as much. But that's a guideline rather than a rule. There is no clear-cut evidence on what group size should be. There should be some sort of individual and group accountability so that you can solve the problem of one person doing all the work or one person not doing any of the work. You need a structured activity. Works well when paired with other learning models. Again, we've talked about problem-based learning and project-based learning as 2 of the principal ideas for doing a more of an inquiry-based approach within an educational environment. You can also use cognitive apprenticeships as a guideline for what you do to support the learning that goes on. You can also use multiple intelligences as a model with cooperative learning. Cognitive apprenticeships, in fact, says that cooperative learning is a key element of the process. So pairing it up with other theories is perfectly appropriate. Group composition. I always try to limit my group sizes to 3. That's just what I've found in the context that I often work in, that's an optimal level. I violate that rule all the time. There are people that say, well, I want to work in a group of 4, I want to work in a group of 2. I have people who just don't like working in groups. So I tend to try to be flexible, but I target 3 as my goal. It really works nicely if you have complementary knowledge and skills, mixed interests, multiple types. Really the interesting thing that happens within a group, they talk about group conflict, and it's not a negative thing, it's actually a positive thing. If you have people sitting at a table that have different perspectives, it actually makes for a richer experience than if everybody agrees. And so that way, if everybody agrees, somebody brings up an idea and everybody goes, uh-huh. Well, that just doesn't make for a very interesting conversation and really careful thought, thinking about whatever it is that whatever process they're engaged in as a group. Possible exception with multiple abilities is gifted kids. It seems like when you mix high-achieving kids with low-achieving kids, it increases the achievement of everybody, and the only exception might be at the upper tier of the high-achieving kids. Mix the complementary skills. Conflict resolution skills are expected. Conflicts should occur. It's good that they occur. But you probably, if they get to a level where it's not productive, you actually need to intervene. Cooperative learning steps. And this is a pretty good process for any kind of inquiry learning. Begin with the forming of a question, identify goals, give them a rubric to work from, Create an assessment that includes both the individual and group accountability, and then have some sort of reflection activity, not only for them, but for you to improve on whatever the experience is. Yeah. Okay, so here are some of the benefits of cooperation. It often gives them real-world relevancy. It can allow them to have a deeper level of learning, particularly as they engage in the conversations that they can engage in as they're going through the process. There usually is an overall improvement in grades. The kids tend to be, or the learners tend to be more highly motivated. They tend to be more actively engaged. And if they're more actively engaged, then they also have a greater ownership of the learning. More student construction of learning methods and problem solutions. They're more engaged in the learning process. It's a perfect place to build on diversity within your groups and to take advantage of diversity within groups. Product can be more representative of a wide range of perspectives. Again, if you reach for that more diverse grouping. Development of conflict resolution and team management, interpersonal skills, which I think are incredibly important for everyone to learn. And so it can be learned if they're not sitting by themselves at a desk learning, if they're sitting in a group. Increased time for personal input, peer feedback, and improved self-esteem. So see, these are some of the benefits of cooperative learning. Increasing the new technologies, particularly online technologies, have really moved towards the idea of more cooperative learning, particularly trying to create online learning communities and having people work together in groups in an online learning context. Students from around the world can collaborate on a project. There really is no limit to the kinds of things that you could do using cooperative learning on a large national scale, on a large state scale, on a large international scale. Increases the inclusion of diverse viewpoints in problem solution. Again, the stereotypes can be kind of eliminated if people are put into groups, and when you're chatting in text, you often aren't realizing the person you're chatting with is male or female, black or white, native English speaker, non-native English speaker, whatever the element of diversity is, that you lose some of that, and that can be positive. There are also some negative perspectives on it. Lack of consensus on proper group formation techniques and sizes. So we talked about some strategies for group formation, but there really is no consensus on what's the optimal size and how to form those groups. It is difficult to set up and manage. Some people say that you actually should have weeks of training in cooperative learning before you ever try to attempt cooperative learning in your educational context. It can be time consuming. And conflict management is tough to teach. And this is probably one of the biggest criticisms of cooperative learning, is unfair workloads, where someone is burdened with doing the bulk of the work and others do very little work. Or conversely, someone takes over the work and doesn't allow the others to contribute. So I mean, it could be because one person is choosing not to work. It could be because a person is choosing to not let the others cooperate. Peer responsibility for learning, difficult for some students. So not everybody is a good teacher. It can encourage low levels of thinking, and you really need to push them to get to the higher order thinking, and that's your job as the teacher. And the other thing, as I said, you can use diversity as a real positive thing, but it could also reinforce cultural stereotypes, and a real common consequence of group formation. If you have mixed genders, then male dominates the group formation. So those are some of the negative aspects of cooperative learning. All right. There are tons of strategies, and some of these are just really great strategies. And just search on these terms. Search for pair share or jigsaw method, because it's really a pretty cool strategy that you can employ, and there are lots of them. In fact, at the end here I say search Google for cooperative learning structures, and you just find all these great ideas for strategies. So when you think about cooperative learning, you can't really pigeonhole it into one thing. It's really lots of different strategies, but it all revolves around having learners learn in some sort of group. Okay? I hope this helps with the summary of the chapter, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.